Okay, so we are going to be presenting recycling. What is recycling, you may ask? Recycling is the act of taking old used materials and using them to create something new. Recycling can be taught in a way that is fun and interesting to keep kids engaged. Recycling is often associated with the image of blue bins labeled with a triangle of three arrows. These storage containers can all be contributed to the location in Canada. The first curbside pickup recycling program made its official debut in Kitchener in 1981. This city in Ontario started the trend of making recycling more convenient to the average consumer. The products we throw in these bins have the best intentions of being converted into new materials and objects. Recycling is one of three actions a consumer can take to help the environment. The other two actions are being reducing and reusing. Recycling is everyone's responsibility and it is important to understand the process recycling here in Canada. Now we will tell you a bit about ourselves.
So, my name is Spencer Roots, and recycling is very important to me. Recycling is something that has a huge impact on every aspect of our lives. It does not just matter to us, but our environment as well as future generations. The impact recycling has is something that is not shown right away, but rather takes some time to really show its impact. From bottles, benches in parks, playground sets, countertops to sports equipment, recycled products are everywhere in our everyday lives, and that starts with learning the importance of recycling.
My name is Cassidy Reibling, and recycling is important. It's a very important topic to me. I think it is so important that people recycle more to help save the environment. Recycling is beneficial to be taught at a young age to lower elementary students because then they can get into the good practice of recycling at a younger age and carry that with them as they grow up. Our environment can only handle so much waste polluting it, and I think it's very important to emphasize the practice of recycling. So many things that people may not even realize can be recycled, like bottles, lunch containers, clothes, and even books.
And my name is Madison Miller, and recycling matters to me as an educator because I believe students should know about sustainability, and learning about this shows them how important our environment is. Teaching students about recycling also helps teach many other lessons they should know, such as responsibility, respect, and consequences. Not only does recycling as a whole matter to me, but recycling books is also something that I believe is important for our students to learn about. Our students will go through many changes as they grow, such as the genre of books and difficulty of text, and therefore outgrow books. I think we need to educate students on what to do with the books after they have outgrown them so they can also be part of this change in our world.
My name is Matt Pollock, and recycling matters to me because we only have one Earth. I wish I could say that I'm a green queen, but I often fall victim to the convenience of singular-use plastic. I think the reason I'm like this is because it is hard to fully fathom the amount of waste I produce. I believe society needs to upgrade from recycling to shoving wastefulness in our face. I would fully support all products having to display a decomposition date. This date would tell the consumer when all the packaging of the product would fully decompose. Recycling is a great first step, but it is by no means the last step. Now we shall jump into some research about recycling. So, plastic producing companies have set themselves as one of the world leaders in packaging and storing products. The average Canadian throws away about 169 pounds of plastic every year. And that's kind of insane because that's more than what I weigh, which is, yeah, a lot of plastic. Municipalities across Canada use different approaches to collect this massive amount of plastic. However, there are companies out there that are trying to help the environment as well and have introduced new programs to everyday consumers. So right here, there is this company called TerraCycle. And if you click on that image, it will bring you to a website. And this company is a free subscription-based company where you can place typical plastic that isn't recycled and ship it to them for free, and they will recycle it for you. So I just thought that was a really neat company. Moving down to processing plastic, Canada has set a goal of recycling 50% of its plastic by 2030. Right now, we are kind of nowhere near that. We only recycle about 9% of our plastic. The rest of it ends up in either landfills, can be incinerated, or it can end up in the environment like the ocean. Incinerators may seem like a great alternative to recycling, but these buildings are known to produce really harmful gases into the air, and they also have ash left over, which we end up throwing into landfills as well. Okay, keep going a little bit further. Manufacturing. So a lot of products that we use today are from recycled materials. They range from buckets to garden hoses to trash cans. These materials are great, and I don't know what else to say about them, so we'll just keep scrolling down. There is so many materials that we can recycle. We can recycle aluminum, electronics, paper, cardboard, glass, tin cans. But one of the main things we do focus on is plastic. There are 7 different types of plastics. I'm not even trying to attempt to name them all, but there's 2 main types that are recycled in Canada, and that is the first 2. The other 5 are dependent on your province and what your province decides to recycle. So the first 2 are the ones we see like most often, like plastic bottles. If we scroll down a little bit more, we can see that number 2 is household cleaners. And then these other ones, provinces, like I said, will decide whether or not we recycle them. So it's like PVC piping, plastic bags, we got some lids, styrofoam, number 6, and then thicker bottles like shampoos or detergents is number 7. And that is what I have for some research.
So there's also many ways that we can teach students how to recycle in the classroom, and we can teach students about donating or buying books at your local thrift store, such as Goodwill or Value Village. We can have them make crafts from damaged books. You can also sign up for this website called Book Crossing, and it lets you send books and then you can track them all around the world. You can also show students how to build a mailbox library, which you can have set up on your lawn outside your house, or you could even do it around the school. There's also a white elephant book exchange. So during the holiday seasons, you can host a classroom exchange where everyone gets or gives a used book and you have them wrapped up and bring them from home. Or you can turn your old books into a garden for your classroom. And this is also a fun way just to decorate your classroom and have a literacy theme present. You can also do stuff in art class, such as making crafts that use the leftover materials from students throughout the year. And this requires teaching students how to decipher and efficiently clean their waste and store it hygienically. We can also lead by example to our students. So teachers are often guilty of going out and buying cheap plastic storage bins to help organize our classrooms. These bins are fun and colorful, but once they snap and break, it goes straight into the landfill. So instead, a teacher could go into their pantry or garage and find a storage bin. A cardboard box with a little time and effort can also become a pretty new tool to organize your classroom.
So now we are going to talk about some relations directly to the program of studies. There's actually quite a few recycling relations on how you can relate it to the program of studies. So for science, the organizing main idea for matter is understanding that the physical world are deepened through investigating matter and energy. So in grade 4, the old curriculum would have related strongly to waste in our world, but this one is students investigate management of waste materials and describe potential personal and environmental impacts. So there's a lot of things relating for the grade 4, and then there is some in grade 6, like in what ways are ecosystems complex. So the learning outcome for that one is students investigate the characteristics and components of ecosystems. So this can be how to preserve them and the damage recycling can do to these ecosystems if we don't recycle. So then it pollutes the environment. And then for language arts, one of the organizing ideas is text forms and structures. There is lots for grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. So students examine ways that messages can be organized and presented for different purposes. And then students explain how the organizing of ideas and information within text can support the purpose of meaning of messages. So then what message does recycling mean? And then for grade 3, students relate the form and structure of text to the communication of ideas and information. So there's lots of activities you can do with recycling to these programs of studies for language arts, science, and then even art without just being we're learning about recycling and that's the only thing we're doing. It actually benefits a lot. Also at the bottom of our in the classroom, we have some unit plans. There is complete unit plan for waste in our world for the old science curriculum. We decided to talk about both because only some teachers are piloting the new science curriculum, but some teachers still choose to use the old one. Then the one with the school on it, the unit plan for waste in our world, it also has the complete grade 4 science unit plan built into it. So it is pretty cool to take a look at. And then the next thing we will talk about is some book resources we have for you guys.
So for our books, we have a list of different children's books to kind of use in your classrooms. So the first one up is Don't Throw That Away. I really like this book because it by itself is made out of 100% recycled material. So it's kind of one of those practice what you preach mentalities. The book has a lot of kind of pull tabs for the kids to use. So it's really good for younger grades 1s and 2s. The book itself is talking about a superhero that helps take a look at second things around them to help encourage children to reuse things they think are trash. Next up is The Most Magnificent Thing. So it's a nice kind of cute story about how a girl and her assistant, which is the puppy, want to try to make the most wonderful thing. So she takes a lot of stuff around her to try to make the most wonderful thing in her mind. It's a story about the same thing, kind of reusing materials we see around us. She takes different objects. She kind of discovers, tries to build something, doesn't like it, and then moves on to the next. She does get kind of discouraged at the end, but there's a couple of characters they're looking at the stuff she made in the past and coming up with some really good like ideas that they could use them for. So it's really good for younger kids to kind of show like perseverance, don't give up. You know, one person's trash is another person's treasure. Next up for a video, we have classic Bill Nye the Science Guy. The video focuses a lot on like garbage and wastes that consumers use and how it's properly treated as well as improperly treated. So it looks at both sides of how waste is used. It's a really good video for grade 1s to 3s. You can either show it as part of your science lessons or your literacy lessons talking about the topic, or even sometimes during lunch, because I know some teachers like to show videos for their younger grades to watch while they're having lunchtime. So it's a really good video to put up for the children as well. Next up is One Plastic Bag, which is a story about an African woman beginning a movement to recycle the plastic bags that were polluting her community. So it's taking a look at how the world around us, once we kind of start looking past the surface value, we start seeing a lot of wastes and garbage going on around us. So it's encouraging younger grades to start kind of looking around to see how one person can kind of change the world just by going out and starting to collect garbage, and how we can band together and tackle a very complicated problem as individuals. Next is The Mess We Made. So this text explores the environmental impact of trash and plastic on the ocean and marine life. So it's a little more focused on ocean pollution, which is where a lot of waste ends up. If it doesn't end up in landfills, it usually ends up in the oceans, causing a lot of harm. So it's really good for kindergarten to grade 3 because the text and pictures are more suited towards the lower grades. There's also a wide range of diverse characters in the book, so it's really good for diversity in the classroom as well. Next book is Why Should I Recycle? So this book talks about why children should recycle. So in the novel, it goes on how the family itself never really recycled. They just kind of collected stuff or threw things out. So it's from a kid's point of view, showing all the different kind of neat things they can do for recycling and reusing. So it's again showing kids different ways to take objects that are usually be thrown out to have no longer have a use, to be able to give them a new purpose in life. So it's really good for like those younger grades, K to 3. Again, due to its simplicity, as well as it goes into detail of things that can be recycled, explaining what they are, so they start to learn about it at a younger age, so they can start keeping those practices throughout their lives. Next is What a Waste. So in this novel, it again goes through a lot of different objects that can pollute the weight, so children can see different objects and how they impact the environment in a negative way once we're done using them, because a lot of children might not see the after effects of the objects once they're done using them. They don't really understand what happens to that bottle once it's gone. So this can help kind of guide them to show them what ends up happening to those products. So this could be used for a grade 4 to 6 classroom. There's a lot of really nice illustrated papers in it, or pictures in it. It's one of our nonfiction textbooks as well, because it kind of goes more into the scientific aspect of what the objects do in our environment. Another book, Recycle and Remake. So this one is kind of like an arts and craft books for children. So it's really good to have for those kind of grade 2 to 6 classrooms once they start getting a little bit more creative with their learning. So this book can help show how you can make different objects out of different everyday materials rather than throwing them out, repurposing them to make something kind of more beautiful than just looking at them as garbage. Another book we have is our Climate Action. So it talks about a lot of different environmental impacts that are going on in the world, that different waste material stuff can have when it comes to climate change. Has a lot of different perspectives from different children across the world, so it gives a little bit more diversity in children's reading, because there's a lot of different like firsthand knowledge, or firsthand knowledge given for kids to read and kind of put themselves in those places. You can use it in like the later grades, just kind of as a compare and contrast to see how things started to happen in other countries where climate disasters started to occur, see some similarities in what's going on in their environment and how they can kind of make some actions to change. And the last one is The Ventures of a Plastic Bottle. So it's from a perspective of a plastic bottle. So it's kind of written like a diary with different dates and moments of a plastic bottle's life cycle. So children can kind of see where products end up, because a lot of times it's kind of hard to see those intangible things in the future of where our plastic material ends up and how it gets there. This way, this book kind of gives children a visualization of how that happens so they can connect to it a lot better. And those are our book resources to use that we've chosen for recycling.
Guess I'll just close things up. And I will say, when exploring our resource, a lot of our links are embedded into pictures. So you can just click on the images throughout our website and you'll be taken to a variety of resources that we have provided. And yes, this is our presentation on recycling.